So the theme for today is steps along the journey to attain inner peace. So peace is actually a quality that is very natural for each of us. However, the roller coasters of life, the ups and downs, the time pressures may take us away from our natural space and place of peace. So this first poem is all about the method. And the method simply is going inwards, knowing that I am a point of light, a soul. The soul itself is an embodiment of peace. When we get drawn into the external, it may take us away from that space of peace, but the moment we turn inwards, we center ourselves, we take a step towards inner peace. So the method itself is having a remembrance of this, remembering that I am a soul, a point of light seated within the body. And naturally that brings a level of peace for the self. And next is to connect upwards to the divine. And it's by connecting to the divine that we gain a level of peace that's unlimited. That's like an ocean. That's beyond our own capacity. So we're able to deal with the current situation or the situations in our lives with an experience of peace. And it's all about remembrance. We start with remembrance and we finish with remembrance. So just taking a moment, I'll share this first poem with you. It's called The Happiness of Remembrance. And Amisha's just going to put the artwork up for this. The Happiness of Remembrance. So as you can see, the poppy is very much linked with the word remembrance. So there's a poppy in this picture. So the happiness of remembrance. Om Shanti. Be a child of the Creator, lost in an ocean of love, living in a peaceful land above. I am the creation, just being as the Creator intended, just seeing. An unlimited inheritance is claimed in this form and name. First, happiness so constant, stable in this dance, firms the stage, turning into a wonderful mage. A stage so royal removes this mortal coil. Burns the sins along with all our kin. We win over and over. Removes the rust from when trapped in lust. From impure to pure, this is the cure. Nourish the soul with peaceful wealth. It brings happy, good health. This is the safety, the security to spiritual maturity. Use this facility, this faculty. There is no difficulty. It is easy. However, if we forget, then temporary supports are let. There will be confusion within this land of illusion. Ego creeps back in. We start to go thin. This is the meek that makes one weak. Remember, be kind. Remind one another to go further. This can be done as it's such great fun. As you walk, talk, remember this tall stalk. Use this inner tie as it helps you to fly. At the end, when we all ascend, Om Shanti. So this is the method for attaining inner peace. And simply as this image shows, there's a symbol of remembrance, and this symbol is a flower in full bloom. And this image simply represents is when we are in full bloom, the center of the flower is a point, and it's when we become centered in our own point form of a soul. We naturally radiate peace. We naturally come from a place of peace. Otherwise, pressures of time, trying to get things done, take us away. Everything happens in due course. There's no need to force. I remember when this particular rhyme came, it was like a moment of, I don't need to force anything that happens, because if I simply learn to observe everything that's happening around me, then things are natural. Things are authentic. I'm not trying to force this gift of life. I'm simply being, enjoying, seeing and observing. But there is a level of remembrance for that to happen. So meditation in itself can be a bit of a formal experience, a formal thing. When we meditate on something, we have it in our awareness, and somehow this creates an energy. But there's another ingredient needed to turn meditation into remembrance, and that ingredient is, as a password for coming into this, it's love. Meditation with love becomes remembrance, and it's when we have this remembrance of ourselves as a soul, and then remembrance of the divine, we're able to claim a divine inheritance. As meditation can seem very formal, this poem is all about creating a loving and close relationship with the divine. As the parent, if the parent really loves a child, when the parent departs, they leave an inheritance for the child. It's in the same way when we have remembrance with love, we're able to draw an inheritance. And this inheritance is peace, love, happiness, bliss. It's all about enjoying the parts that we are playing on an external level. But it does require this level of turning inwards. And it's this level of turning inwards that allows us to connect, and connect. Through connection, we gain this divine inheritance. As the divine God is the father and mother of every soul. Okay, so we'll take this into a little bit of a breathing exercise, and then a meditation experience of simply being in front of the divine and claiming a divine inheritance through remembrance. So the breathing exercise I'd like to do is called Nadi shodana. It's all about cleaning energy channels, being clean, clear, and it brings a level of peace. So if we sit up tall, lengthen the spine, roll the shoulders back and down. So the body is still uncomfortable. Left hand is just going to come down towards the left knee, and the right hand we're just going to bring up the ring finger and these two fingers here. So just observe to begin with. These two fingers are going to come to that third eye point. And then we're breathing through one nostril at a time. Thumb is going to block off the right nostril. And we're just going to breathe through that one nostril on the left hand side. So as we inhale, we're going to inhale slowly for a count of 5. And then as we exhale, we're going to exhale for a count of 5 through the same nostril. In the abdomen, soft abdomen rises and falls with each breath. As we inhale for the count of 5. And then exhale for the count of 5. So I invite you to try this with me if you wish. Sitting up tall, rolling the shoulders back and down. The left nostril is all to do with the moon, relaxation, to bring peace. Whereas the right nostril is all to do with energy, activity. So maybe placing the left hand on the lower abdomen, just below the navel. So when we breathe, we want to breathe down to this space. Long, slow, deep breaths. So once again, I invite you, if you wish to practice this breathing exercise with me. The smaller two fingers come in. These two fingers come to the third eye point. Right thumb blocking off right nostril. And then as we inhale, so exhale completely to begin with. And then block off the nostril. Inhaling for the count of 5. And then exhaling for a count of 5. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Final round. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just coming back to your natural breathing. Just observe anything that may be going on. Spine is long. So left nostril is all to do with relaxation, creativity. Right nostril is all to do with logic and energy. So at any time during our day, if we get a bit anxious or anxiety is coming up, this is a good little breathing exercise to practice. Okay, so now we'll take this into a meditation experience. So once again, just lengthen the spine, rolling the shoulders back and down, tucking the chin in slightly. And just taking a few long, slow, deep breaths, allowing the mind to become present, simply being an observer. And I bring my awareness to the third eye point, that space between the eyebrows, where the driving seat of the soul is. And it's from this space I simply become still, become aware of the living energy that I am within the body. I, the soul, am an embodiment of peace. I create a thought of peace, and then I go into the experience of peace. As peace is my natural way of being. Peace allows me to play my part with creativity and with clarity. And from this space I create a thought of love towards the divine. And in a moment I go beyond these realms of space and time by turning inwards and then upwards. And I remember this divine mother and father of the soul. Coming into this space of pure potential. The coming in front of the divine is like coming in front of the sun. Just taking rays of peace which allows me to maintain a level of peace through my daily activity. Through my very being. And this is our inheritance. To be at peace. To feel loved. To be in a state of bliss. And I simply remember this space. Remember the divine. And allow myself to claim this divine inheritance. From my mother and father. Om Shanti. So the method itself is very simple. It's taking a moment to go into deep remembrance. But in order to connect and to have this remembrance, the first step is to become soul aware, to become soul conscious, because then we can make that connection to the soul. If we don't become soul aware, then we can search and search. That connection is not made. Energy does not flow. Inheritance is not coming. A good example I've come across, this is a very, very useful example to understand about becoming soul aware is there's two copper wires. One of them is a sheathed copper wire, and the other one is without the sheath on. And if we try and connect these two copper wires together, can energy flow between them? It can't, because one of them is insulated and one of them is a live wire. So even if we connect them, there's no energy flow, there's no current that goes through. But in order for this current to go through, what needs to happen to the insulated wire is that the rubber sealing has to come off of the wire. So this is an open copper wire, and this is also an open copper wire. And then when we connect the two, then energy flows between the connection. Otherwise, because one is insulated by the external, it's hard to make a connection. So it's this practice of really removing the insulation of the body and all physical relations, and it's not forgetting them, they're always there, we can always go back to them at any point, but the moment of the physical not having any power over us, the moment the physical is, we're not dependent on the physical, and it's that moment where we're not dependent on the physical that allows us to turn upwards and make a connection to the divine and draw this energy from the divine, which then we use in our parts. So in itself, it's a journey. It's a journey of connecting and remembering, a journey of remembrance. So it's known as a pilgrimage of remembrance, a journey. And as a theme today is the steps along the journey of remembrance. So we'll share this second poem with you now. It's called From Warriors to a Spiritual Guide. And this is the artwork for it here. From a warrior to a spiritual guide. So these are the different steps along the journey to attain inner peace, or to stay in a state of peace while playing our parts. So these are the stages from a warrior to a spiritual guide. Om Shanti. Stages of strength bring rages or long length, rages of a battler to the patience of a cattle herder, from a warrior to a spiritual guide, from a battler to one that only glides, sees the tides, has mercy, never hides. So a warrior, on a gross level, only battles whilst inside is always rattled. In the lane that always complains, in the seat which only competes, criticizes, spiritually downsizes, ever changing, just fluctuating, just force in due course left in remorse, a slave to this drama, creating many karmas, forgotten how to play, lost in another way. Heavy in the head only oppresses, left with stresses, distresses, lost the original seat, sighs in defeat. The spiritual warrior sees the director and chief. This gives a lot of relief. Directions of this one to follow, how to remain mellow. Remove the rage and take the step of a sage. See the games of life, be free from pushing or strife. Remain fearless in every scene. Keep me in between. Remember this command, it stops the drowning in quicksand. Come to this lovely new land. Keep this the only plan. A spiritual guide. One belongs to the clan, knows this drama's plan, free of any quicksand. A mind silent and still, wealth will be filled. Intellect connected to the commander, attached. Only what's needed is catched. In the seat of liberation enjoys all of creation. For those that yelp always has time to help. No more is there force, only the due course. I will become that what I once was, free from any loss, gloss, and moss. Om Shanti. So this image in itself, I'll explain. A warrior. A warrior is one that has battles, battles that go on internally, maybe even externally. So there's three types of warriors. Well, two types of warriors and then the guide. So the first warrior is one that's always in a state of confrontation to the external. There's an attacking, there's a competing, there's a criticizing that goes on, and it does leave the self quite heavy in the head because there's a lot of overthinking and a wasteful thinking that goes on in this stage. A spiritual warrior, on the other hand, as you can see, the second image is not of somebody who's attacking, but it's actually somebody who's defending, who has a magic shield that defends. So in the first one, there's no self-observation at all. There's always the external and how does that make me feel. Whereas the second one, we do have the ability to observe the self. However, criticizing, competing, this sort of may still happen with ourself on an internal level, where we can become very self-critical. So this poem reflects these stages of steps of learning as we go through. So the first one is in the thick of the battle on the external, with no self-observation that goes on. The awareness is only drawn externally. Whereas the spiritual warrior, the difference here is they have that ability to turn inwards and then upwards to the divine. And then this allows the soul to have this ability to observe what's going on in the self. But then there may be some level of criticizing or competing. But they're on the right track. They're on the right track. Sometimes in the soul awareness, sometimes in the physical awareness, shifting between the two. And it's this shift of consciousness that happens over a period of time, where from material awareness we move more into soul awareness. So it's catching ourselves, knowing those tendencies by the self-observation that goes on, and then we're able to make the change. And finally, a spiritual guide, as you can see the image right at the top, is one that's gained victory over the internal battles, the internal damaging tendencies that we may all have. So it's gained victory, so there's no more war, but we're in a state of internal peace. Only in the level of soul awareness. The other sign of a spiritual guide is that they're able to show others how to become this as well, how to become a guide or attain that state of inner peace themselves. Okay, so we can take the artwork down. So, a warrior to a spiritual guide. A warrior is one that battles. So maybe just take a moment and observe yourself from the day today, because maybe there's been scenes in my day where I've been a bit like a warrior, where I've wanted things to happen in a certain way. There may be parts of my day where I've been like a spiritual guide, or one that's radiating a level of peace. There may be in parts of my day where I'm shifting between the two. But it's this practice of self-observation that allows us to make the internal corrections to come back to our peace, on our peaceful state. As time in itself, time and consciousness makes us move away from that state of peace. So coming back to our soulful state, we have to step out of time consciousness. Take a moment, because it's these moments that we take that recharge the self. So taking moments of stillness. For a moment, let's turn inwards. And just focus. If the mind wanders, bring it back with the breath. Just focus on who I am. And see how long I could hold this awareness without any other thought coming within my mind. Because it's this practice which allows us to sharpen our level of focus. I am a peaceful soul. And I simply hold this thought in my mind. Allow it to generate energy. The more I practice going into silence, and connecting to this divine part of the self. What happens is the physical world, where we may be caught up in our battles as warriors, becomes very small. We take a step above the battlefield. Whether it's a gross battle with arguments and complaints and criticisms, or whether it's a very subtle battle inside ourselves of damaging tendencies and critical self-criticisms, or even self-sabotaging natures. What helps us to overcome and gain victory over these internal battles is coming from a space of peace. We can either be in a state of internal war or in a state of internal peace. So a spiritual guide is one that has this ability to stay easy-natured, especially towards the self. Self-critical or self-sabotaging nature is a warrior still, so there's still internal battles going on. Whereas a spiritual guide, one that has attained or taken this step towards inner peace, is one that is able to guide others there as well by radiating a level of peace. It's an awareness that we're developing really more than anything else, a fresh spiritual awareness, and it's the more we practice developing this fresh spiritual awareness, our old tendencies sit alongside them. And that's what it creates, this tug of war, this battle inside. So if we allow one side to win, or if we allow this battle to keep going on, it can make us feel quite tired. So actually, that makes us feel tired. Whereas this practice, this method of remembrance, balanced with the service or whatever we do, allows us to stay recharged, to stay fresh. So just take a moment to become still. And as we become still, be patient. The deeper we go, the greater our level of focus and awareness goes. Stillness. Patience. Easiness. Allows us to come and be in a state of peace. As it's this internal resource of peace. That takes us away from a state of battling. So when challenges come up in our external world, I'm able to remain calm. I'm able to show tolerance. I'm able to withdraw and let go. As this is what allows the self to be easy-natured. Om Shanti.